once per turn effect. You could even call that cost, right? You didn't discard anything, you didn't lose anything, you just, I said negate, I said the word negate. Congrats. Extra deck negates in Yu-Gi-Oh are garbage. Why would you go and say something so bold, yet so true? Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you back in my neck of the woods of YouTube. I wish you'd come more often and come see me, hang out. Your old pal Dueling Waves just been sitting here waiting for his babies to visit and no one's coming. Before we begin, I want to shout out to the Discord, where we have a really cool community that's growing each and every day. We've got some really cool stuff on there. We talk about TCG, we talk about an alternate format that we have just for our Discord, where we control our own ban list by the votes of you. Yes, you, the player, get to decide what is on the ban list or not. Well, not you specifically. It's a voting. It's a overarching community that decides it. You can't exactly get, you know, that one card unless the rest of us all vote on it also. But still, yes, you come, you vote, you play in a cool format. We have tourneys all the time, so come join if that is something that interests you. Anyway, let's get back into the video. By the way, the Discord is in the description below.
Draw your last pathetic card so I can end this, Yugi.
My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, Kaiba, but it does contain the unstoppable
Dueling Wave. Why are extra deck negates garbage? Negates are a mechanic in the game where functionally you cancel the effect of something else. It's one of the more degenerate, in my opinion, forms of interaction. There's removal, there's what else is there? I guess there's removal and there's negates. Removal, school, negates are trash. What ends up happening is you'll have a card and then you'll activate a card. Your opponent will then go negate using some monster, trap, spell, whatever, which means essentially I cancel. We time travel back to when before it even happened.
activate trap.
The dweeb had a grave robber card, and he used it to bring back my time machine trap.
Bingo. My dragon's back. Red Eyes, welcome back. His attack is higher than your defense, so good luck blocking this. Go! Flash! Flare! Blast!
And, you know, we continue as if nothing had happened at the cost of one once per turn effect. You could even call that cost, right? You didn't discard anything, you didn't lose anything, you just, I said negate, I said the word negate. Congrats. This type of effect, why it's so gross, is because it trades really, really well, almost too hyper efficiently well. If your opponent, for example, makes a board with, like, let's say Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and then you playing braindead best deck, you normal summon a Luber, and you go effective Luber trying to get a braindead fusion out of the deck. What'll happen is your opponent will Crystal Wing, negate that Aluber. What will happen is you lose the Aluber because it negates the activation and destroys. It's two things in one effect. People think it's just one effect. No, it's two things in one effect. What it does is negate that activation. Boom. Aluber, his effect has been invalidated. That's the first part of the effect. And then the remainder of that effect is and destroy that card, meaning they lose that future search and that monster that's on the field, right? A 2-for-1. Now, why is this so powerful? Well, functionally, it's the same result as when you ash a Pot of Desires or a Pot of Extravagance or whatever else draw card you can think of. When you ash a card like that, the ash usually just trades for an effect, not a card, right? If you normal summon, I don't know, Aluber, same situation. You normal summon Aluber, it gets ashed, which would be crazy. Please, guys, ash all the Alubers. You normal summon, they ash. What happens is you trade, you go -1 for that hypothetical effect that they would have gotten to get the Brain of Fusion or whatever. It's actually maybe a 1-for-1 if you look at it in hypothetical card advantage. It's a 1-for-1, even though technically it's a -1 when you're just looking at what cards have moved where. But why it's so powerful when you activate Brain of Fusion against an ash or against a Pot of Desires or whatever is because you would have gotten way more cards, but that ash trades for that card and those hypothetical cards, making it effectively a negate and destroy when it's used against spells. And that is why extra deck negates are so powerful, because they are accessible right there. They're always accessible as long as you can put the prerequisite monsters on the board to form these monsters, and then you get them for free, right? You just get, you know, 3-4 ash at any time effect, basically. Now let's touch on ash for a second. Do I think ash is part of the problem of the garbageness of negates in Yu-Gi-Oh? No, I actually do not. I think the card is a little overtuned, a little overpowered, even still to this day. I mean, it was made almost a decade ago at this point, but it's still very, very powerful. But compared to what has happened in the game of power creep in the last 5 years, I think it's pretty reasonable overall. Of course, I wish it could, like, you know, if it just negated activations as opposed to effects like Bell does, it'd be really nice. But unfortunately, it was designed before Konami had that kind of foresight and wherewithal to understand that, hey, maybe we shouldn't print this card with that type of text in it. But, you know, the nuances were kind of lost on them in the earlier days of the game, and you could even consider 2015 or whatever it was released, 2016, as an earlier earlier in the game, right? Because it's been like 10 years since then. Now, back to negate and destroy effects. Let's take a look at another infamous example, right? This isn't an extra deck monster, but it's kind of in the similar vein, right? Frame Gear Gamma, a hand trap. A hand trap that was so powerful, it was limited to 1, because what would happen is you would activate an effect, and if you go back to that same example, a Luber, right? A Luber effect, Gamma, boom, you lose a Luber, you lose that hypothetical resource. It's like an extra deck negate, but from the hand. Why it was so powerful was because if you were using, because it has a limitation where if you have monsters on the field, you can't activate its effect. Why it was so powerful was if your playmaker was your field spell or continuous spell or a pendulum scale, for example, like Super Heavy Samurai, you would just go activate Wakaushi, your opponent would try to like Ogre, you would Gamma, and then functionally FTK them because now you get an Omega or a Barone or whatever. The world is your oyster. And so now what we're talking about is basically a bunch of Gammas in the extra deck just staring you down. You know, if your opponent makes like God knows what board with negates, you're just staring down, you're like, man, this is great. Back in the day, it was Barone, Apo, Savage. You're just like, I can't play, right? That's why they had to take 2 of those monsters out of the game. 1 more monster to go, Konami. Come on, baby, let's go, let's go, let's go. These type of effects that negate and destroy, losing you those resources, it's just, it's a little too overtuned, a little bit too powerful. A lot of these decks can't stomach this kind of effect. For example, when Gamma, when it started getting very, very popular, was around spiral format, where you would consolidate 2 spirals into a double helix. It was very hard to chain block at the time before like Magician Souls was released. So what you would do is you would activate the Gamma on the double helix effect, destroying it and losing them those 2 link monsters, plus the double helix's effect of treating itself as a super agent to be able to recover with a quick fix from the graveyard. You would just lose so much by gammaing, and effectively those type of decks, when they were going second into a board of negates, would also kind of lose to the same situation. It's why these effects of removing stuff from the board on top of negates is broken. Like, removal is in its own way a aspect of the game, a way you can play, a way you can interact, where negates have removal and something else on top of it. And this card was limited to 1, and like it's all over extra decks. Like, some are a little bit less generic, some a little, but overall negates are all over the place. You just have to know where to look. And think about it, pretty much in the last like 5, 6, 7 years, Konami has gotten to the point where you could make 3 to 6 negates fairly simply, right? It's not even that hard. Like, just like last format or a couple formats ago, Dinosaurs, which is a deck that was barely rogue, was making 7 negate boards, but it wasn't playable because of God knows why, maybe hand traps, I don't know, right? A lot of these decks, I mean, think about it, 7 negates going first. Like, how are you supposed to break that with 6 cards, right? You guys remember Herald of Perfection, right? With Ava, how are you supposed to, they would just negate every card in your hand, right? That's negates, negate and destroy. And why do we have every card nowadays having 3 effects? It's because, well, we know they're going to get negated, right, or destroyed or some way, right? So removed from the field. Now when they remove from the field, they trigger another effect and then another effect and another effect, right? That's what's the worst thing about this game, right? One level of power creep leads to another level of power creep, and then you're trying to fix it by removing these negates, but then, oh wait, we overcompensated with this mechanic, and so things are just getting out of control. These type of effects are garbage. They don't promote interaction, back and forth games. They promote degeneracy. What is the difference between negating your whole hand or hand looping you for 6? What is the difference between what Dark World does and what like Dinos did? Right? If I don't have a hand, or if I the only thing I could think of is maybe, hey, you have a chance of drawing Forbidden Droplets or Dark Ruler against a negate board, right? But even some of those negate boards, they can just make a like Manadium Reframing or whatever to be able to negate it and destroy it. And then guess what? You lost a Dark Ruler too, and you just lost even harder. It was only a choice of playing. Playing was never the option, ever. And don't get me started on another aspect of negates that just sucks cheeks. There are stipulations on cards that say you can only activate this card once per turn. You can only use this card once per turn. Well, the activate stipulation is a billion, trillion, gazillion times better than the use effect. Why? Because these negates exist, and so therefore, when you activate a card and an activation is negated, you can activate another if it just says you can only activate this once per turn, because technically you time traveled back, like Bandit Keith and Joey Wheeler in that one duel, right? We just time traveled back to before this ever even happened, and then we continue as nothing ever happened. Use effects are a little bit different. If you use a card and it gets negated, technically you used it. You placed it on the field, even though nothing happened. You used the card, therefore you can't use it again. So here's an example for the slow boys. Your opponent's on Infernobles. We're gonna make this a really, really simple, easy to understand example. Your opponent's on Infernobles. They make just a simple board of 2 Charles, right? 2 spell and trap negates. You're on Braindead Best deck. You've got 3 cards that are just engine, 2 Braindead Fusion and Braindead Lost. You're going second, right? So you have really just 2 Braindead Fusions and a Braindead Lost. Your opponent negates the activation, destroys it. He has to, otherwise you would just be able to play with the Braindead Fusion through their negates. You activate the first brand of fusion. Your opponent uses the second Charles to negate this brand of fusion. Negate the activation and destroy. Now, since brand of fusion is a activate clause, you can activate the second one. Your opponent no longer has negates. You can go off, summon your stuff, and break their board. Perfect. Yay. We understand. Activate, right? Now, here's where it gets even worse. Here's where it gets crazier. Monsters, a lot of monsters will have use effects, right? So if you use their effect, for example, like a Cartesia, if that gets negated, bam, you're just out of luck. But there's other cards that's even worse, where spell cards have use effects. Some of them might be a little bit older, but we'll just use one easy example. If we look at Necros, so go to the same exact situation we were just in. So we go 2 Charles on the field. You have Necros. You open up Kaleidoscope, Mirror, Mirror, and the rest of your hand's nice Necros card. You activate Kaleidoscope, negate, okay? You activate Mirror, negate. You have another Mirror in hand. Can you use this Mirror? I'll let you guys post in the comments down below if this Mirror can be activated legally. It has a use effect. Can you use it? 3, 2, 1. No, you cannot use it because it's a use effect. Technically, you already used the Mirror this turn. It did nothing, but you used it. This is how stupid Yu-Gi-Oh is, right? So like these negates invalidate entire cards, entire mechanics, entire ways of playing. Going second, they're misery. Negates can functionally invalidate more than just the 2 theoretical resources in your hand, right? Because if your opponent negates your Aluber and destroys him, let's say you had another Aluber in hand, and let's say you had a double summon, just for this example. I can't just normal summon the Aluber again because technically I used his effect, and therefore I cannot use it again. And not just that, I can't even use the other, which is even harder once per turn. You cannot use a second Aluber even if he's negated and destroyed. Nonsense. So if you go lead with Aluber, it gets negated and destroyed, and you open up another 2 Alubers, this functionally took out 4 cards out of the equation with 1 negate. I know it's a little high rolly, you know, I'm asking you to kind of think a little bit critically. If you rip 3 Aluber off the top, your opponent negates 1, that means they've removed that Aluber from the field and negated his effects, meaning you lose the brand of fusion or whatever else you were going to search, and the other 2 Alubers are dead as hell in your hand, even if you had double summon and triple summon and whatever you had in your hand. It doesn't matter, and that's terrible for going second, because you can't play through boards. You have the only way to play through boards. Someone, I'll hear the people in the comments go, well, dude, you just got to be able to play through boards. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, bro. You know how you play through boards? I know how you play through boards. You lightning storm. You evenly match. You play OP. Insane board breakers after like they negate you and then you just dunk on them. Yes, I know, I do it too. I'm not saying I functionally cannot play going second. I play going second just fine. What I'm saying is an inherent game design flaw that can be fixed and make the game better. Not in the reality. I'm talking about the ideal. So please don't comment down below, oh my god, but you don't know how to play second. Yes, I do. I play branded. It's why I love branded, because it can go first and go in second. With board breakers, it dunks on everything. But hey dude, talking to you, yes you, we're not talking about the reality of things. We're talking about how we can make the game better and be an ideal. And the worst part about this is, or best part about this, but I guess it's the worst because they haven't done anything about it. Konami knows about this problem, and they've known about it since like 2019. Because when Forbidden Droplets dropped, what do you think Forbidden Droplets meant to do? You go normal summon, right? Negate. Okay, chain droplets. Remove the normal summon off the field, right? If it's a targeting effect negate, cool, yay, we get to resolve the effect. If not, you lose that monster anyway. You were gonna lose him, so before he'll get negated, but before he gets and destroyed as part of that second part of that clause, you removed him from the field and some other junk from your hand that's redundant. Let's say you drew in that same situation, you drew triple Aluber and a Forbidden Droplets. You can lead with Aluber, your opponent will negate, you can get rid of the Aluber and whatever Aluber is in your hand so that you can at least negate their board, and then with the rest of your hand play through their board. That's kind of what, Forbidden Droplets was designed for. Literally, they designed it knowing negates and all this crap has existed. And how long have negates been terrorizing the game? It's been forever, but since droplets come out, so it was a big problem then when we got Dark Ruler and Droplet. It's still a problem. It took them 5 years to stop fucking Barone and fucking Savage, bro. A card like that, or cards with Dark Ruler too, that are that powerful that just have to exist just to give you going second a chance through stupid negates. Interactions in the game by removal are far and away healthier and better and more fun in every which way to interact and play this game. Konami knows this, and they've essentially agreed with their ban list and design philosophy, because look at what they've hit, look recently, and look how they design archetypes. But hey, that's a topic for another video. Thank you guys for being here till the end. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe, because the support helps me, gets me power in my chest, dog. And like the video by hitting that thumbs up button, because you know you like it and you want that algorithm juice. Otherwise, check out this video here and continue down the Yu-Gi-Oh rabbit hole. Otherwise, I'll see y'all as always.